2 weeks from Saturday will be the day that rookies report for Bears training camp. So we are starting Saturday. We are within 2 weeks to the start of football practice, training camp, starting to have the conversations and getting ready for the National Football League. And obviously college football will be in the mix as well as we get started. So, Jesse, when I see that, I started thinking, like, are the Bears going to make the playoffs this year? And a part of that equation is, of course, everything that took place with the Bears this offseason. Improving the offensive line, going out and getting a new head coach, that head coach hiring great coaches to coach underneath him, a good defensive coordinator, all of the pieces that are coming together here in Chicago. But I feel like sometimes we may get a little over our skis when thinking what's going on here is more important than what's going on everywhere else.
Right.
So with that said, I took it upon myself this afternoon to sit down and to rank the teams in the NFC, because I want to know, as we enter in the training camp weeks and preseason, I want to know if this Bears team can make it to the playoffs. Okay, so I've got my ranking here. And
You're not the only one that wants to know that.
Of course, we all do, right?
Yep.
But I've got the list. I want you to tell me what you think as I go through the list, okay? So I would be a jerk if I didn't put this team at number one in the NFC to start, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. They blew out the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. They, for the most part, have all of the important pieces coming back. Good coach in Sirianni. The fact that they were able to reload in the draft and make smart moves in free agency year after year after year. I have the Eagles as the number one team. Any problem there?
No, hard to argue against that. I was one of those guys that really liked the Eagles in the Super Bowl. I really did. And it was, not
Great
everybody.
Call.
Yeah, I really did like them. I'm usually bad at picking winners and stuff, but there was something there that I don't think everyone kind of realized, because Mahomes magic, everything, but there was something there that was dominant, and it came out in that game. So I have no problem with you putting the Eagles right there. I really like them going into the playoffs, into the Super Bowl, so why wouldn't I like them coming out?
Yeah, Jesse, the point that you make is fantastic, is because all of the stats, all of the team stats, everything pointed to Philly being the better team in the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
Except you always had in the back of your mind, could Mahomes be the difference, right? And the fact that they couldn't keep him clean in the pocket, and it really just they could never get back what they lost at the start of the game to the Eagles because they were just too damn good.
Yeah.
And so you're right. Like, if you just followed the stats, you pulled the smart move like you did, and you picked the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. If you're a jerk like me, you were like, I think Mahomes could pull it out. Mahomes magic. It doesn't matter. He's that good. All right, so my number one team, the Eagles.
Yeah.
Number two, I have the Los Angeles Rams. I love Stafford. I love McVay. I like what they did on defense last year, and they replaced Cooper Kupp with Devontae Adams, and Adams is way better than Kupp at this point. And so I think the Rams are going to be the second best team in the conference this year.
Well, obviously that's a sneaky pick. Yeah. Whether it's good or bad remains to be seen, but it's a sneaky pick. And I think it's sneaky because of their defense. I think that's where I'm not going to necessarily disagree with you. It's a pick if you believe in a young defense taking a big leap,
right?
Or a small leap, even just a leap. So I understand why you're making that pick. It's going to be hard for me to say that they are ahead of even Detroit with their losses and whatever, and maybe even a couple other teams. The Commanders are on the rise. Yeah. But so that's why I'm saying it's a sneaky pick. It could be sneaky bad, though, too. I think you'd admit that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously to have a segment like this and to come up with an idea like this, to go chalk would be pointless, right? Like,
totally. Yes.
For me to just roll out, we'll go Lions, Eagles, and in the order that they finished.
Well, especially in the NFL, they never return the way they were.
And that's what you have to think about.
Yeah.
It never is the same year after year. So number 3, I'm not dropping them too far. I think Detroit will be the third best team in the conference. They're still going to be the best team in the NFC North. I do think the loss of the coaches and the coordinators, that will have an effect at some point. Jared Goff played his best football under Sean McVay and Ben Johnson. I don't know if he can play his best football with a new offensive coordinator who's not one of these pseudo offensive-minded geniuses. You see what I'm saying? So I've got the Lions as number 3.
I think it's going to be somewhat fascinating. Here's my analogy. It's like Craig Counsell came to the Cubs and Milwaukee did not fall apart. What's Detroit going to look like without Ben Johnson? Now, their head coach is still there, so it's not apples to apples, but you get what I'm saying. Like, is it the organization? Which it might be with Detroit these days.
Yeah, it could be.
Or is it specific people that were there, personnel and or coaches, starting with Ben Johnson? So I'm fascinated. I also agree. I don't think there's going to be the drop-off. As long as that running back is there and the quarterback doesn't fall apart, that's a really good offense. And then the tight end, of course,
Yeah, absolutely.
My guy from Iowa there, right?
Yes. And when I looked at these rankings, Jesse, I put them in order as if it were the playoff standings. Mm-hmm. So you got the 4 divisional winners. So the 4th team in the conference, I have Tampa Bay. Yeah, they won the better wide receiver groups in the conference in all of football. I like Baker Mayfield. I'm a Baker Mayfield supporter. And then defensively, they have Vita Vea and Kalea Kancey up front in the middle, which I think makes a huge difference. So I've got Tampa Bay winning that division, the South, and being the 4th best team in the conference.
Okay, I mean, this is where you're going to start to lose me. Now, I've gone kicking and screaming to believing in Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
I mean, he was so bad at the end in Cleveland, but I guess, that arm was a disaster. He was hurt.
And he had the bonehead mistakes in the playoff game as well.
Look, I think he's overachieved, to be honest.
Wow. Overachieved.
Sort of. But I respect what he's done. I respect what he's done in Tampa, especially. I don't know if I could put them 4th. I mean, what did you think Jaden Daniels was a one-year wonder? Where are you putting Washington these days?
I'm glad you asked. They're 5th in the conference.
Right. Now I feel a little bit better.
I've got the Commanders. They added Deebo Samuel to the offense. Year 2 of Jaden Daniels. I think they're going to be good. I just don't think that the Commanders will beat the Eagles in the division, and therefore the Commanders will be that first wild card team in the conference. So I've got them as the 5th seed. I think they're going to be good. I did not slight them by saying I think Jaden Daniels is going to take a step back. I think he's the real deal. I have them as 5th in the conference.
So first wild card, but are they better than Tampa? Just if they played each other 10 times?
Fair question.
Okay.
I'll say that the Commanders will be better than the Bucs.
Okay, so you're just doing the seeding if the playoffs got it.
Yeah, that's a fair way to look at
it. I can live with that. I think Washington was not a one-year wonder, and I think they're going to be right in the mix. But you're right, they're not as good as the Eagles.
All right, here we go. Number 6. I have the Chicago Bears.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Bears,
drinking the Kool-Aid.
I've got the Bears as the 6th best team in the conference. Coaching staff, Caleb in year 2, the additions to the weapons offensively, the offensive line. Finally, the Bears have an offensive line. Could you imagine if our quarterback could just stand upright and get the football out? What a team this would be. I have the Bears at 6 in the conference.
So I'm buying them moving ahead of one of the other 2 division foes, probably Minnesota. I say probably because Minnesota does it, with magic, you know what I mean? And now they have basically a rookie quarterback again. So I can see somehow Minnesota falling off. I still respect Green Bay enough to say I gotta see it. I gotta see it. Now I'm more of a Jordan Love fan than certainly Shea Norling. He hates Jordan Love. They went 11-6 and petered out the Packers.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know why I'm giving the Packers more respect than the Vikings, but only because J.J. McCarthy. It's almost like starting over there. But man, that coach is good too. So my point is, I can't see the Bears moving past Minnesota and Green Bay in this first year.
Okay, that's a fair way to look at it. My number 7 team. So I go Bears at 6. The final team in the playoffs, I have the Minnesota Vikings. Here's my logic. Last year, they were a top 10 defense in defensive yards per play. I think their additions on defense will keep them at that level. And even though they're starting a guy who hasn't played in the NFL and J.J. McCarthy, if he struggles, what we've seen from the Vikings in the past is their defense is good enough to keep them in games. And I think that'll be good enough to beat out Green Bay and to make it to that final wild card spot.
And he's like a quarterback whisperer up there, the coach. So
yeah, that's true. When you get Sam Darnold to play the way he did last year, you got to give him credit.
Yeah.
So I've got the Vikings as the final wild card team.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I don't even know why I was respecting Green Bay more than Minnesota, other than McCarthy's basically, a rookie. And I do like Jordan Love. I do like him, even though he's prone to an interception here or there. So anyway, okay, Minnesota 7. Where are you going next?
Okay, so these are the teams that miss out on the playoffs. At 8, I have the Packers. At 9, I have the 49ers. 10, the Cowboys. Then the Falcons, Seahawks, Cardinals, Panthers, Giants, Saints. So the first 3 that miss the playoffs, but obviously they'll be in the hunt, will be Green Bay, San Francisco, and Dallas. All 3 teams that the Bears play. Therefore, if you look at the schedule, if you want the key to whether or not the Bears can make the playoffs, you have to take care of your business against the Packers, the 49ers, and the Cowboys.
Yeah, so let me see if I can give you one team that you don't have making the playoffs that I think could.
Okay. Give it to me.
From that group. I mean, I don't think it's San Francisco. I don't think it's Seattle. Like, could Arizona be sneaky good? They were kind of had their moments last year.
Maybe.
Are they headed in the right direction? I don't think it'll be New Orleans. I don't think it'll be Carolina. Atlanta would be probably the other one. So maybe one of those two get in, and I don't know if it's the Bears or the Vikings that don't, but yeah. I would say those would be the only possibilities from the group that you said would not make the playoffs.
Is it unrealistic to think that it's possible the Bears could get to the 6th seed?
No, it's not unrealistic if Ben Johnson just is this incredible coach and gets the best out of Caleb in year 1. There's so many other pieces there. So no, and we see leaps all the time. We see under 500 to over 500, and I don't just mean 8 and 9 to 9 and 8. Like, we see huge leaps. So no, I don't think it's unrealistic. I like everybody, you got to be. I think like everyone that's a Bears fan, you got to be cautiously optimistic, and cross your fingers a little bit. But the formula's there, right?
And
it just has to come together.
I would say this: I feel uneasy about this ranking based on how much chalk there is compared to last season. Like how we started this conversation is it's never the same. And the fact that the Bears are the only team in the group of 7 that didn't make the playoffs kind of makes me think like, oh, maybe I'm missing something, Falcons, Cardinals,
well, that's
like you said.
Yeah,
Panthers,
that's what I meant. Falcons and Cardinals. Like Cardinals
Cowboys.
Especially. Cowboys. I don't know. Can the Cowboys really fix themselves that much? They gave up so much. They gave up 468 points last year in 18 games. That's like an Arizona sneaks in. Atlanta had a good vibe about them to start the season, and then just kind of petered out. So I think you might be wrong on a couple.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm out there. I just wanted to talk to you, get a little Bears conversation into the mix.
Sure.
312-332-3776. This segment is brought to you by Steinhoffels. It's Chris Bleck, Jesse Rogers, hanging out in for Waddle and Silvy today here on ESPN 1000. Paulie in Palm Beach, you're on ESPN 1000. What's up, Paulie?
Hey, how you doing, guys? Good show.
Thanks, man. What's up?
Thanks.
I wanted to talk a little football because I'm perplexed. I think you guys know I'm a book, right? So over under, Minnesota and the Bears are the same, 8.5. Minnesota was 12.5 last year. What is the sucker play here? Is it too easy to take over Minnesota? Are they going to suck that bad? I mean, how could the Bears and Minnesota have the same over under? I don't care if it's a rookie QB. The coach is great. He can take an average QB and make him better than average. And they got a fantastic team. Their lines are incredible. I can't believe it's only 8.5. I had to look at it 10 times.
Yeah, so he's going over the sucker bet because they're really going to be worse than that, or is it just an automatic they're going to take a step back this season?
Yes, that's my question.
Well, but step back is could be 9 and 8, and they still get the over. So
yeah, that's a good point.
9 and they're banking on them being around 500. Did you say their over under was 12.5 last year?
That's what I thought it was. Let's look it up. I think it was 12.5.
For that can't be right. That seems really high for Sam Darnold, and Detroit coming off the year before that they had. So that seems a little high. But I get what you're saying. How could the Bears and Vikings be about the same? I think it does come down to the quarterback, One's in his second year, and one's in his first year. But the Vikings' defense is really good.
I'm trying to look it up right now what their over-under was heading into this season.
6.5 is what I'm seeing.
6.5. Yeah.
Last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't 12.5.
Yeah.
Minnesota was 6.5?
Yeah, they were 6.5. Yeah.
Oh, my bad. I misread something.
Yeah.
Boy.
Oh, good, Paulie. Thanks for the phone call.
God, they had that by November 1st.
Yeah, I know.
Holy cow, it was 6.5?
Yeah.
Man, they were
That's why
good.
I was like, I don't think so. They had 14 wins last year. That's incredible.
Remember, 8.5 might sound about right. Remember, a lot of their wins are by 3 or less points.
Yeah, one-score games, yeah.
And God bless them. God bless them. But we know that that doesn't always carry over. And they're back to, and J.J. McCarthy's good, but he's not talented. He's talented, but not Caleb Williams talented or Jaden Daniels talented. Right. He doesn't come in with that reputation, but he comes in with a winning reputation.